This is the brand new Autofocus 85mm f1.8 prime lens by 7Artisans. They sent me this lens for free for review a few weeks before its release, so any flaws could very much be pre-production issues. That being said, I was able to take it out and test out its image quality in autofocus, so here's a quick review of this new budget autofocus lens. Before we start, be sure to like this video and subscribe, or else I will accidentally leave a roll of film in my bag and take it through some x-rays at TSA and make a video about x-rays affecting film. This lens, made out of metal and glass, has a good amount of heft to it, weighing 437.5 grams, feeling solid and of great quality, especially for the $300 price tag. For now, there's only an E-mount version, but we could hope for there to be a Z-mount and maybe an L-mount version in the future. There is a focus ring, an aperture ring, an AF/MF switch, and a customizable button. By default, that button is set to autofocus lock, and you can customize that through the button customization menu in camera. By the mount is a USB-C port for updating firmware. And speaking of mount, it is solid. Many cheaper lenses, and sometimes even expensive ones, tend to have some play in the mount, but this one has none. It comes with a standard lens hood, but same with the 50mm that they previously sent, I don't think it is significant enough. The aperture by-wire ring, which is declicked, is always great to have on autofocus lenses to have some extra tactile control. Unlike the 50mm that I made a video on previously, there's no finicky aperture flickering phenomenon where the values would spaz out, and the readouts are at every third of a stop. When manually focusing using the focus by wire ring, the focus throw is extremely long, close to 360 degrees, which is highly unusual for a stills lens. It's also mostly linear, making pulling focus predictable and repeatable, something crucial to have, especially for video. However, I do wish that it was easier to pull focus in iris, both in terms of the grip as well as damping. The grooves don't feel substantial enough to get a good grip, especially as it's in the same satin finish material the rest of the lens is in, but mostly I think the difficulty in adjusting both is from the amount of resistance these rings have. Iris is fine, as you typically don't want that being knocked over accidentally, and my dual lens primes have a tough iris as well, but focus is unbelievably hard to pull, at least for quick adjustments. For something a camera operator will be constantly adjusting, the focus ring is way too stiff, introducing a lot of rotational movement to try to counter the force. If you want to use this for video, I would highly recommend getting gears and a follow focus. The last thing I didn't like with pulling manually was that the rotation is reversed from what I'm used to, so behind the camera you rotate clockwise to pull farther, counterclockwise to pull closer. A bit confusing when switching between different lenses, but it's not a big deal. Off to the images. The images this lens produces were significantly above my expectations. The majority of the outdoor shots were taken at around f/5.6 with an ND filter. Any flaring should be taken with a grain of salt, as it probably would actually be less without anything in front of the lens. Assume that any of these types of flares is from the ND filter. Now, although I would like to compare this lens to the Sony 85, as that is probably what this lens is most likely competing with, I don't have one, nor do I have any interest in getting that lens, so I will compare it to an 85 I do have, the dual lens APL Mini Prime 85mm t2.4. I made these comparison shots at t5.6, although in reality the equivalent t-stop at f/5.6 on the autofocus prime was actually around t5. Either the dual lens t-stop is off or this lens is just really bright for its aperture. Colors also look slightly cooler. I think this lens is atypically pretty for a stills focus lens, especially for this price. The bokeh is soft, while the subject in focus is tack sharp, and the transition from in focus to out of focus is natural and pleasing, unlike the 50mm, which had an indescribable weird transition. There is a bit of fringing and magenta and green chromatic aberration, but it is minimal overall. Although the test shots outside weren't wide open for the most part, plus they were all on low resolution sensor of the FX3, so worse fringing or CA may appear on high resolution sensors like that of an A7R5. The autofocus for video was usable, although I wouldn't rely on it. As with the 50, I had no way to scientifically test it, plus I have no idea what the autofocus settings on my camera do, so take my anecdotal results as you wish. I did notice the lens hunts often, especially if the subject isn't obvious like a human face, or if it's even slightly dim in terms of exposure, although I think the latter is typical of any camera. The speed isn't supersonic when going back and forth between subjects, as I tried here with the fastest in-camera settings, but I won't be able to tell if that's the limitation of the lens or a nerf on third-party lenses that Sony puts. When pulling manually, you do notice some steps in the focusing if you look closely, especially at some points when you get close to the minimum focus distance, which is pretty far, by the way, but typical for an 85mm at 80 centimeters. In the quick indoor test that I did, I noticed the 7Artisans lens ran 100-something Kelvin cooler than the Dualens 85, which was consistent from the outdoor results. And there is less contrast overall, as you can see in just the colors, just looking at them, as well as objectively through the graphs. Here, approximately f2.5 was equivalent to a t2.4 on the Dualens, which is consistent with the outdoor f-stop to t-stop comparisons. Otherwise, with a bit of color corrections, the color and sharpness are on par with any great lens. Overall, I am highly impressed with this budget lens. Cheaper than the Sony Prime, producing sharp images with a milky background with minimal artifacts. Again, autofocus is not something I use regularly for video, but being one of the cheapest full-frame autofocus primes out there, this lens is another great contender from 7Artisans for a great-looking and well-built budget prime lens 7Artisans is known for. Thank you for watching this quick review, and I'll leave a link to this lens in the description if you were interested in getting this lens. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Hopefully it's going to be a bit of black and white if I can make it on time. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Stay safe, don't die. See ya.